Hello there.
This is where the fun begins.
What's up guys, Unofficial Star Wars here. Hope you're all doing well, and in this video we have an update about The Mandalorian's overall future. Now, whether or not this is going to be within The Mandalorian Season 4, or possibly potentially within The Mandalorian and Grogu movie by Jon Favreau, that is kind of something that remains a little bit up in the air. However, what I can say is that it does all point towards having the actor himself of Pedro Pascal reprising that role, or taking on that role more physically, much rather, like helmet off in his next appearance of The Mandalorian. Now, to be fair and to be clear and cut, I do believe the next appearance, from what it seems, is going to be based off of those different speculations and the different rumors of what we have been hearing and covering here on the channel, of course, is that the next appearance of the Mandalorian is going to be in Jon Favreau's Mandalorian and Grogu movie. This especially comes amidst the having recently the Mandalorian body double Brendan Wayne also coming out and mentioning like he hasn't heard anything about the Mandalorian Season 4. It doesn't seem to be Lucasfilm's main focus, and that they would much rather move forward very clear and cut with the movie itself instead of going in for another season of the hit show. Of course, we're going to go ahead and hop right on into it, break it all down for you guys, everything we know and everything that we're anticipating right now. Before we do though, however, grab the subscribe button if you haven't already, as we're discussing and covering all types of Star Wars related news, leaks, rumors, theories, and breakdowns here on the channel. So if you guys are into any of that, go ahead and grab that subscribe button today. Okay, so in this video we are going to be taking a quick read from one of my favorites, StarWarsNewsNet.com. I'll have their article linked in the description down below for you guys to check out there as well. It may have appeared that Star Wars adjacent news has Pedro Pascal wrapped on The Last of Us Season 2. And more broadly, more specifically I guess, how does this impact, how does this relate to his next Star Wars appearance within the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, of course? Well, as I had mentioned, this is more Star Wars adjacent news, and it's really about the actor himself of Pedro Pascal. As regular readers of this weekly series might know by now, we've been tracking down production schedules of most of the upcoming Star Wars titles, as well as their adjacent leading people, and kind of to see how that all comes into correlation and really begins to connect. Well, more specifically, Pedro Pascal, whose schedule is a matter of global concern at this point by now, as it affects the future of the two biggest franchises and one of the biggest TV shows in the world. It goes outside of just Star Wars, of course, by which, if you are a Marvel fan, we have our Marvel channel linked in the description down below. Also, following the official announcement and confirmation that Pedro Pascal will take on Mr. Fantastic for the Fantastic Four movie, a part of the MCU, makes it all the more grand and all the more big. This isn't necessarily Star Wars related as closely or as specifically as I had mentioned, but we'd still like to clarify some of the talk that's been going around a bit lately. For those that may have missed it, Pedro Pascal does have a pretty busy 2024 year, as he's supposed to shoot a new season of HBO's The Last of Us Season 2, a new Marvel movie in Fantastic Four. He's the voice of the leading character in Lucasfilm's The Mandalorian and Grogu movie, which is also going to start filming in its production a little bit later this year. And then he's also shooting at least two A24 movies. So what's going on exactly? He's all over the place. Pedro Pascal started shooting in mid-February Season 2 of The Last of Us, which takes on the Naughty Dog's 2020 sequel game, or at least part of it. As it's widely known by now, and probably won't get into much story specifics here, so no spoiler really much needed, Pedro Pascal's Joel character has a smaller role in the sequel, to say the least, and by extension, the actor will also have to reduce his presence in the second season of the show nonetheless, which will likely adapt that second game as faithfully as the first season had took on part 1. So, if so, Pedro Pascal's role is mostly limited to the prologue of the story, which, if we were to guess, is what they were shooting for the first 4 weeks of its production, but then again, it's a bit difficult to tell because usually, shows and movies are shot all out of order. All roads of that prologue lead to a scene that features a cast of characters that were connectively announced by HBO at the beginning of the month, and even more consequently, can I also be more a bit ironic here, Pedro Pascal was also required on the set of Ari Aster's Edgerton movie just a week after that announcement. Okay, so besides all that jibber jabber, about a week ago or so now, Daniel Richmond, insider of course and Scooper, had posted on his Patreon page that Pedro Pascal had wrapped his part in The Last of Us Season 2 and was moving on, which caused them to freak out for some reason.
Taking a while,
and this was definitely not news to those of us who'd actually seen those Edgerton set photos, but when asked to comment by IGN.com, HBO denied that Pedro Pascal was actually finished and done. So what's happening here exactly, and how does this impact Star Wars, of course, more importantly? Pedro Pascal is very much done, it would appear, for The Last of Us Season 2, for the time being at least. His commitments are elsewhere at the moment, as Edgington is probably going to be a 2-month shoot, and right up next to that he has Colleen Song's Materialist going up in New York, as a long way from the Vancouver set production of The Last of Us, of course, so very opposite. So why is HBO saying otherwise, of course? You'd believe it's simply a case of the broken telephone game. My guess is that Pedro Pascal has wrapped shooting on that prologue, which is where most, but not all, of his scenes are actually complete. He still maybe has a few spaced out or throughout the game, of course, which he'll likely get on at a later point, if he can. So that's a little jibber-jabber, as I had mentioned there. So to recap overall here, Edgington is happening now. The Materialist movie starts in May for Pedro. The Mandalorian and Grogu movie is happening in mid-June and throughout the summer. Fantastic Four is happening sometime in August or September, and they will all have to accommodate Pedro Pascal's press tour for Gladiator 2 as well, but that's an issue for another day. Anyway, Daniel Richmond said that The Last of Us is set to wrap around August, which seems a bit early for us considering the scope of the story, but they could make that work as well. So as I have kind of been mentioning throughout this video, how this all comes more importantly and into a wider scope of a galaxy far, far away, of course, what we're all here for, what we all kind of really do care about more or less here, I think, at the end of the day, is that it's really just laying that groundwork and those puzzle pieces to see, like, does the evidence line up there from what we have been hearing from the rumor and speculation side of things that we've been covering here on the channel, of course, and the different reports saying that the Mandalorian and Grogu movie is going to begin its filming and its production sometime in mid-June and kind of throughout the summer this year, of course. And I think that the clear and cut answer to that is that it's going to be a yes, and that furthermore it's all the more important that Pedro Pascal has room for that. Like, of course, he can always do his lines and posts like he normally does for the majority of the show itself, but like having that availability to actually be on set while they're actually filming the Mandalorian and Grogu movie is a whole nother thing. Like, all of a sudden he's able to actually be on set, of course, and he can film scenes like as himself, so it kind of adds on to that bit of a speculation, like, okay, are we going to see the Mandalorian take his helmet off again in the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, which has been a very firm topic throughout the last 2 seasons, or not the last 2 seasons, but the Mandalorian season 3, also the Book of Boba Fett, has been a very firm topic of the Mandalorian character and not removing that helmet, because something about this is the way. I don't know. No, I'm just messing with you guys. But yes, I find it all very interesting, of course, and I would like to discuss this in more detail and more depth in a separate future video here on the channel. It's all the more reason to grab the subscribe button if you haven't already, guys. This here all being said, let me know all of your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Of course, I would love to hear what you guys are all thinking. Thanks so much for watching today's video. Of course, this has been an official Star Wars. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great one. May the Force be with you as always. Peace out.